Welcome to Super Talk Outdoors from the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay. I want to thank you for joining us and, joining in this celebration that we do every Monday at lunchtime around the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi, because you know what? We live in the capital of the outdoors. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful Super Talk Mississippi Radio Network or on Super Talk TV at C Spire TV. You might also be watching the show on YouTube or Facebook or listening on your favorite podcast. It's February the 20th, 2023. Hey, listen, as I mentioned last Monday, my son Jordan and his friend John McMahon and their crew went offshore last Monday. They were actually fishing while I was doing the show. They were searching for tuna and wahoo, and they found them both. The tuna were literally jumping everywhere, but they just couldn't find a bite. It's kind of frustrating, actually, because you'll see a school of tuna come up at 200 yards over there. You'll run over there, you throw your poppers or whatever, they'll sound again, and then they'll reappear 300 yards over there. So you have to be chasing, and you got to get the time right and all that. They just had a difficult time on the tuna bite, but they did find the wahoo bite. They were able to put 4 really, really good ones in the boat, and they lost one that would have gone over 100 pounds at the boat. So it was a great trip. This time of year, you get a very, very narrow window, and it's in between cold fronts, and they happen to hit it very perfectly. So that's the beauty of fishing this time of year. You get to experience some incredible fishing, and you don't have to make as long a run as you would have to run during the summertime. The water we have access to here off the coast of Mississippi is really second to none. And you can see, for the folks on the Facebook tube, you can see this is a picture from the boat as one of the wahoo was being aft. And it was just a great time out the water. But that's one of the reasons we call it the capital of the outdoors in America, man. You can do some amazing fishing offshore, and then go inland and do a wide variety of other incredible kinds of hunting. Hey, listen, now we're going to work our way toward turkey season. Incidentally, the National Wild Turkey Federation annual convention was this past weekend, and by all accounts, it was really a great year. I saw where my friends Chapel Hart played there. And the outdoors ambassadors from Mississippi were in full bloom over the weekend. Folks from Mossy Oaks like Cuz Strickland, the Haas brothers. From Primos Hunting, you saw where Will and Jimmy Primos were there. But they were representing Mississippi on a national stage. And as I often say about them and others like them, we are so lucky to have these outdoor ambassadors working on our behalf. Hey, by the way, I saw that the National Wild Turkey Federation official Instagram page posted a video of Daniel Haas. He was auctioning off a Fox Vest number 5, and it was filled with custom calls and so on for the Grand National Auction. And that vest went for $31,000. A turkey vest with custom calls went for $31,000. Congratulations to Mossy Oaks and to the National Wild Turkey Federation and those who also contributed to custom calls. That's a great outcome. Hey, last week I gave you an update on the latest efforts to make the sale of white-tailed deer in Mississippi legal. I actually talked about 2 bills that actually died in the legislature when House leadership effectively killed them. These are bills that actually would have made the sale of white-tailed deer illegal and sort of put this thing to bed once and for all. But odd things happen in an election year. I know that. I'm a former publisher of a newspaper. I know that very well. It seems so counterintuitive, as I pointed out last week, that you would have something that's supported by the vast majority of outdoorsmen and women in this state would be a bill like making the sale of white-tailed deer illegal, and that would be a slam dunk. But it's not always. So I'll sort of leave it up to the Speaker, Philip Gunn, to explain why that's not the case. But again, it's an election year. Sometimes strange things happen in an election year. But our focus on the issue has caused some serious light on it, and I'm hearing that there's really no appetite, both in the legislature and on the commission, to make the sale of white-tailed deer legal. But at least for the time being, I'm gonna stay clued into the work of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Commission And if anything changes, I'm certainly going to let you know. But incidentally, some would like us to stop talking about it, but I should point out to them that there's absolutely no chance of that. Until the door is shut permanently, we're gonna keep a laser focus on it. That's just the way it works, and I'm privileged to have Super Talk Outdoors so that I can say that. Now we're going to shift gears. I came up on this great quote the other day. It's from John Glenn, and John Glenn said this: "We are fulfilled when we are involved in something bigger than ourselves." John Glenn, we are more fulfilled when we are involved in something bigger than ourselves. That's what I feel about the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund that was passed by the legislature last year. And the Board of Trustees has been hard at work building this mechanism that will become the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. They hired an executive director, one that I am thrilled about. He's my friend, Ricky Flynt from the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. He's now moved over as the executive director for the trust fund. And I'm thrilled to have him on Super Talk Outdoors today. How you doing, Ricky?
Hey, it's great to be here. Glad to hear about the success with the fishing trip. That's all.
Yeah. For we showed a couple of pictures and a short video. You can see those at the Super Talk Outdoors Facebook page or the YouTube page, or you can well, that's how you can see the pictures. There's no other way you can see the pictures, or you can watch it on Super Talk TV, of course. But anyway, Ricky, I'm so happy for you, man. You had a great career at the department that started in 1993 as an area manager for one of the wildlife management areas. And we'll talk a little bit about your past here in just a second. But, to sort of your finale with the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks as head of the alligator program. And that's the reason you've been on this show many, many times. It's got to feel a little uneasy, though, coming from something that you've been in part of since 1993, and now you're in this new gig. You're sort of building something with the Board of Trustees that hasn't been done before. How's it going in general? We'll talk specific. We're going to talk about your background here first. We'll come back to the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund in just a second. But how you feeling about things these days?
I'm feeling really good. I can't deny that there wasn't a certain level of anxiety coming into this. Obviously, been with the department almost 30 years, and had spent the last 20 of that in the alligator program, and I was very comfortable with what I was doing there and very passionate about it. As I mentioned to you off the record there earlier, when we had these events, interviews like this, if I was talking about the alligator program, I didn't even need any notes. But now I have this computer screen here in front of me so that I can refer back to things, because I'm not completely familiar with everything that I'm dealing with here in this Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. But I've gotten my shoes on. I've got my office set up here, and working hand in hand with the folks here in the Department of Finance and Administration, and they have been great to me. They've helped me transition very well, and working with the board, I feel like I got my shoes on, and we've made some good accomplishments in very short order, and we're making headway, and I'm looking forward to getting through this first year. I feel like if I can get through this first year to get all the processes down, then always, working to improve upon that. We just got to get it going, and I feel like we're on a good track.
Well, I've been watching carefully, and know members who are part of the Board of Trustees, and we'll detail who those are in just a second. But what I'm observing, I've said many times, that the Board of Trustees is a dream team of very successful businessmen who are taking incredibly important time out of their world every Monday to be a part of forming this thing that is going to be really generational. And when I think about this effort, Ricky, and I think about you, the work that you were doing at the department and the work that you're doing now, you heard that John Glenn quote: "We are more fulfilled when we are involved in something bigger than ourselves." That kind of defines your entire career, doesn't it?
It does. I've said before, people in my generation, we grew up watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and that was my, back in the day, if I could watch anything on TV other than cartoons on Saturday mornings, I wanted to watch Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and that is what birthed my interest in wildlife conservation and being in the outdoors. And you know, before I started trying to interview for this position, and I had to look back at where I was, where I've been, and I told my wife, I said, I've had a great career, and I've done more things with more species of wildlife than I ever could have imagined. And this is an opportunity to paint a much broader paintbrush across the state of Mississippi and outdoor recreation and wildlife conservation.
We're visiting with Ricky Flynt from the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. He's a new executive director. We'll be back after this to talk a little bit about his past. We'll see you after this.
Carry on, Mississippi.
Leading the conversation on Mississippi's outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. If you go back and look at sort of the history of Super Talk Outdoors, which started in October of 2021, I would say that what defined this show from an issues point of view was our focus on the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund, bringing lots of attention to it because other states across the nation have similar programs. And they were able to, in many cases, take a $20 or $30 million investment into their programs and turn it into 40, 50, 60, some even as much as $100 million from the federal matching funds that are available to programs like this. Mississippi now has a trust fund and can do programs that are going to be generational in nature to increase our outdoors enjoyment. And it's going to position us to be able to get matching funds. And we're going to be talking more about this in a second. But really a generational bill. We're so happy that our governor signed and our legislature passed this new Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. And I'm thrilled that my friend, Ricky, our friend, because as you know, if you're a regular listener to Super Talk Outdoors, Ricky's been on this show many times talking about his past love, alligators, and the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. But now he's the executive director, he's been charged with helping sort of put the mechanism in place that's going to enable this trust fund to be second to none. Before we get into the trust fund, Ricky, I want to come back just a second. You had a great career at the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, as you pointed out, almost 30 years. When you look back, of course, developing this incredible alligator program will always be your hallmark. But when you look back on your time at the Wildlife Department, what comes to mind for you? I mean, how do you, I know you look back fondly with all the incredible people that you had the opportunity to work with, but how do you describe your time there?
Well, first, I would say it's the people that I worked with in the agency and other cooperating agencies, and then the people of the state of Mississippi that I got introduced to across so many different venues, whether it was hunting on public lands, seminars, short courses, public presentations, civic organizations, and then, of course, the alligator hunting season probably introduced me to more people than any other program I've worked with. And, the people at NBWFP have been absolutely fantastic. And one of the nice things about working with the Department of Wildlife is, even when I was with the alligator program, I could go and work and assist all the other species management programs that were out there. I could work on WMAs. I could work in the turkey program, bear program, you name it. And that added to my experience and my knowledge that has helped me, I think, get to be able to be a good candidate for this position. I have a wide experience with different species, habitat management, forest management, construction, you name it, whatever it is. And all these things are a valuable part of what outdoor stewardship is going to be, from construction of projects, habitat management. All these things are going to benefit me in this place.
Yeah, when you were an area manager for Mahana and for Twin Oaks, you actually developed the first limited draw
Yeah.
hunting system in Mississippi. And then you became the first associate biologist acquired for the Black Perry Wildlife Management and Hell Creek Wildlife Management Area. If you just go through your past, I mean, your work on quails and rabbit habitat and how that worked out so well. You know, developing the first public alligator hunting season in 2005. You've been in waterfowl management, you've been in waterfowl enforcement, you've volunteered in Catch a Dream, and all of these aspects. And what's so important is that when you consider that so much of Mississippi is privately owned land, that in order to have an effective conservation program, one of the things we press so hard to do is say make the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund apply to any land in Mississippi, whether it's publicly owned or whether it's private land, so that we can have real conservation programs that impact. You've been able to see all these various pieces. You've seen how federal programs flow through. You've seen all those things. And I think one of the things that probably is one of the most powerful is the point you made right off the bat, and that is the kind of relationships you developed just in all these areas across the state. Relationships that you'll have with you for the rest of your life and will serve you extraordinarily well in this gig as these grant applications start to come in from all over the state. You're in a good position to really understand what makes a good grant application. What is something that's really going to make an impact in this state? What is something that's going to create the kind of federal funds that we need to get? You're in a good position to understand that, aren't you?
Yeah. Thank goodness I'm an extrovert. I've from day one, when I was working at Mahana Wildlife Management Area, just getting to meet people and explain to them, what we're trying to do here. You talked about establishing the first draw type permitting system as we did there at Mahana and Twin Oaks. That had to be sold. The people are used to going to public lands and all you got to do is show up, fill out a visitor permit card and go. Well, that program there was the birthing of, trying to work with more of a quality type experience for a hunter, not just an opportunity to go do whatever. But, when you considered that you had the chance to be one of 20 people hunting on 12,000 acres for that day, and you didn't have to worry about 100 other people showing up. And that type of program has spread out among so many of our wildlife management areas and other federal lands as well. And it has really caught on, and people understand that they'd rather have that slim chance of being drawn, but knowing that if they did get drawn, it was a totally different experience than what they had experienced in the past. And so it's things like that, looking at alligator hunting and such a new opportunity in the state of Mississippi. Even though it's been going on 20 years now, it seems so new, and it really is when you look at it on the timeline and the impact it's had on so many people's lives that have gotten involved in alligator hunting. You talk about being proud. I can't tell you how many times we've been out in working enforcement, checking hunting parties on the water. It might be 2 o'clock in the morning. There's 2 or 3 teenagers laying in the bottom of the boat, sound asleep, wrapped up in a blanket. But then you're interacting with these people, and you've got 3 generations of a family in one vessel, and the oldest gentleman in the boat is in his late 70s or 80s, and he's telling you, man, this alligator hunting thing is the best thing I've ever experienced. It's the most exciting thing I've ever done. And if y'all would let us, I'd alligator hunt all season long, and I'd put my rifle up. I would never go deer hunting again. Well, when you hear those kinds of things, you can't help but be proud of being in the part of that. And I'm very humbled to be the one who is, at the helm of getting that going through. So, yeah, it's exciting, and real excited about now, this opportunity to take all those experiences and work to improve outdoor recreation. I've explained to some folks here just recently who call and ask questions about what is the outdoor stewardship. And some folks may think that it's only for hunters and fishermen, and it absolutely is not. You don't have to have a hunting license or a fishing license to be interested in what the Outdoor Stewardship Trust is going to do, because everybody spends some time outdoors doing something. And there are opportunities for this stewardship trust to impact all sorts of outdoor recreation that can affect every Mississippian out there. And that's the greatest thing about the legislature and the governor passing this bill and funding this program. We've got $10 million to work with for this first year, and we're going to have more. And I'm absolutely confident that at this point, with 28 applications already received, and we still got a little more than a week left in this first round deadline, we're going to spend all $10 million. There's no doubt in my mind, and we're going to need some more. And we're going to be able to show the legislatures that there's a lot of interest, and we're just knocking the bark off with this first $10 million.
Yeah, Ricky, it's exciting, and it's exciting too to have you in this position. It comes back to the point, and everything you just said sort of makes this point clear. What John Glenn said: when we are more fulfilled when we're involved in something bigger than ourselves, and the opportunity through the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund to put something that's going to be transformational through generations is so clear now. And we'll continue the conversation on the other side with Ricky Flynt.
Whistling that sweet soul for him. I said 3 Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on, I'll carry on. Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my friend Ricky Flynt, who's the new executive director for the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. Hey, Ricky, one quick point that I want to make. There's a bill that passed the House that speaks to this really important point around a dedicated funding source. What we would hope to be able to do is move away from sort of an annual appropriations, excuse me, where we have to sort of kind of push and fight to get this year's allotment. Why this is important, actually, is that, first of all, you don't want to have to spend the time to work on the annual appropriation, but more importantly, actually, than that is the notion that this money will be dedicated for years to come. So when you're working on multi-year projects, when you're working on federal funding that involves multi-year projects, or maybe the cycles don't match up exactly with the current cycle, it's really important for us to know that we've got that money next year. Now, I've heard the speaker and the lieutenant governor talk about $20 million, and hopefully that's what we'll get in it for this year. I've heard some talk about 10, but more recently I heard 20 enter into the conversation again. But again, see, we're not sure. We're not sure. Is it going to be 10? Is it going to be 20? And we have to kind of wait for the legislative process to kind of play out. Hopefully the Senate will entertain the dedicated funding source so we can know that money's coming in the years to come. But coming back to the fund itself, what's important is to just sort of recognize that this is the first year out. And I know that the Board of Trustees, in watching their meetings, and we'll come here in just a second and mention who's on the Board of Trustees, and I know that you feel the pressure as well. It's really important for this first year to be a demonstration year. You made that point going into the break there a minute ago. You really want to hit the ball out of the park this first year so you can show people this is what we mean when we talk about spending money to increase the outdoor recreation in the state. It's important, isn't it, buddy?
It is. You know, we're very early in the game. I'm excited by the number of applicants we've already had submit, and I'm excited by the amount of interest that I've gotten, particularly this last week. The last few days, the phone was ringing off the wall. I was getting constant emails from other entities who were in the process of applying, or they just now heard about it, and they're wondering, is there enough time to get an application in? So it is early, and I feel like as more and more people learn about it, then this thing is just going to mushroom, and it's going to take additional funding. And those other states, such as Georgia, that have this dedicated tax diversion, have seen their program just absolutely explode with opportunities due to that dedicated funding source that's coming through. And they can add staff, they can add more opportunities. The sky's the limit when it comes to projects. Instead of wondering, can a $1 million project be approved, a $3 or $5 million project can be approved without any problem. And you mentioned the matching funds part of it. Hey, this is a huge selling point. And I've looked at my spreadsheet so far, just from the applicants we have so far. For every dollar that this fund, if we were to fund all of them at this point, if we were to fund for every dollar, there would be $2.1 being brought back into the state, whether it's from matching funds from municipalities, other state grants, federal grants. And that's money that's being brought in that otherwise wouldn't be here, being spent in our economy. That's room for contractors in Mississippi to get involved. It's all sorts of things, not to mention the recreational opportunities that can be added for the people of Mississippi.
So, Ricky, you mentioned Georgia. They turned their fund into, with all the matching funds, in the vicinity of $100 million. I mean, they literally have led the way in helping to understand how to make a state dollar turn into something very dramatic. And it was frustrating, in fact, to watch all these other states in the Southeast do what they were doing around matching funds. And we didn't have a fund that enabled us to be able to do the same thing, and now we do. And it's to think that over $2 of new money comes in for each dollar that Mississippi spends through the Stewardship Trust Fund. As we get more awareness of partners who understand the best practices around America in terms of projects and matching funds available, that number will just continue to grow and grow and grow in subsequent years. And it's exciting to know that we're hitting the ground running as it relates to that. Hey, let's take a step back real quick. Remind listeners who is on the steering committee, who's been selected by the lieutenant governor and the governor to be on the board of trustees.
Right. So we have a board that were nominated by the governor and the lieutenant governor. The governor nominated 4 appointees who are Van Ray, who is the chairman of the board. He is from Yazoo City. We also have David Holman, who's down there from around your area in Bay St. Louis. Colin Maloney out of Tupelo, and then Drew Thomas St. John right here in Madison. The lieutenant governor was able to appoint 3. Those are Joe Cloyd, again from your area there in Ocean Springs, Matt Limscomb up in DeSoto County, and then Denny Terrell out of Kosciuszko. And all of these, like you mentioned, are heavy hitters. And it's been a pleasure to work with them. While I was in the process of contemplating taking this position and interviewing, I went back and watched every board recording that they had in all their meetings. And I could see that these guys are passionate, they're interested, and they're very intellectual people, and you want these kinds of minds at the helm helping me lead the way when you've got people that are so successful at running businesses and engineering and business and whatever it all is, that they're just great at it, and it's good to be married in with them in this program.
Yeah, I've watched 90% of the meetings myself as well, and I think Van has done a really good job of leading the group. I know Joe Cloyd from the coast really well, and he's incredibly successful and has a lot of experience with working in state government. He was aide-de-camp, for a matter of fact, for Governor Haley Barbour. So he's the real deal. And what I really enjoy hearing is, as they learn more, the more focus there is on understanding sort of what the game plan is going to be, what the master plan for Mississippi might look like. How do we make sure that we're making decisions within the context of some larger stewardship trust fund vision? And eventually, we'll have that. We'll have that in writing at some point, and the evolution is really fast when you consider this thing had to come from 0 to 60 in a short period of time. And now you're on board now. And as you pointed out, you got about a week left, right? In the application deadline?
Yeah. Our deadline for the first round is going to be February 28th. We've already named the deadline for the second round as May 1st. And, you hit on something there just now. This is something that's been in the wheels of being developed going back around 2017, 2018, thanks to a great partnership, a coalition of people and organizations like the Mississippi Wildlife Foundation, Ducks Unlimited, the Nature Conservancy, Wildlife Mississippi, as well as many other organizations. They all had the forethought to get this going, and this is not something that just happened last year. It's something that's been in the process for a long time. We've got a number of great other state agencies assisting us as non-voting ex officio members with the Mississippi Soil and Water Conservation Commission, Department of Marine Resources, Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks, Department of Ag and Commerce. We have assistance from those that serve on the Senate and House Appropriations Committees, Finance Committee and House and Ways and Means, and then also the House and Senate Wildlife Fisheries Committees as well. And so we've got all these people working with us at the table at the same time, and you couldn't ask for a much better dugout to be able to choose from when you've got questions and you've got ideas. You got all these people that can throw all these things around. It's great.
Yeah, I know Michael Watson had him on my show recently, Secretary of State. He's been paying extraordinarily close attention. I know that Delbert Hoseman and Philip Gunn and our leadership has been really paying close attention. And everyone's focused on one thing, making this sort of a generational opportunity for this state, and it's going to pay off. You mentioned this coalition. You think about James Cummings from Wildlife Mississippi. He literally wrote the book on conservation on private land and what he's brought to the table about his knowledge of federal money and how that works. Think about Ed Penny from Ducks Unlimited and being able to look out over all these other states and see best practices, and Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy and what he's brought to the table, and John Taylor and Chris Gerritz from the foundation. This has been a team effort, and it's been amazing to watch all these passionate players. Hey, We'll be back with Ricky Flynt right after this.
Mississippi, there's a magnolia tree to Mississippi where a mockingbird sings out on his limb, whistling that sweet soulful hymn. I said 3 Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on, I'll carry on, Mississippi.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my friend Ricky Flynt from the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. He's the executive director there, and really, really proud to call him a friend of Super Talk Outdoors, and I'm just thrilled he's in this position. And when we went to break, we were talking about this board of trustees and the great partnerships that it took to pull this off, great alignment in the legislature. And, one of the things I mentioned that, bills never are exactly the way you want them to be when they first get passed. There are always these opportunities to go back in and tweak them and do things to improve them. The one thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the last segment, the one tweak that could be made to this one is to create an ongoing and reoccurring funding source. We need it to be dedicated so that we're not having to go back every year and get that money. That's really important, actually, because when you think about most projects aren't a 1 year and done project. Some of the
Right.
better projects that we're going to fund are going to be multi-year, and some of the federal money that we're going to go get is going to be multi-year. So we really need to be able to do that. We got off to a good start with 10 million. Hopefully, we'll get 20 million this year, and we'll have a good public conversation about a dedicated funding source. But I'm really happy with where we are, and I know that it feels a little bit like drinking from a fire hose, Ricky. But when you consider you've got just a week left, and the applications are pouring in, and more than $2 of matching funds is already on the applications for every dollar spent in Mississippi. That's a great start, and you just got to be thrilled about that.
I am. And, one of the first things that I noticed when you start researching about this bill before it ever got passed and looking at other states and understanding that 75% of Mississippi voters support a dedicated conservation funding program. 75%. Hunters and fishermen are the minority, even here in the state of Mississippi. Most people don't realize that, but they really are. Probably only about 25 to 30% of Mississippians participate in hunting and fishing activities, or they're at least as licensed hunters and fishermen. So to think that 75% of our voting public out there is supporting something like this is huge. It's like when we first started talking, it's not just a hunting and fishing activity that this fund is interested in. It's about outdoor recreation. And there's so many things other than hunting and fishing. Obviously, talking about, wildlife being held in trust in this state, as you mentioned. People in Mississippi, whether they deer hunt or not, are interested in knowing that there is a deer population here for them to enjoy, knowing that there's a thriving wildlife resource here. They're interested in knowing that, we have all these neotropical migrants that move through our state because of the valuable resources and habitat that's here. So you're interested in songbirds and things like that. So many people are, and that's just a few examples, but we've got that support from the people who are making the difference, voting in Mississippi and supporting all of our programs all across the board. Dedicating funding is going to be very important, very valuable to ensure more outdoor recreation for Mississippians, and it's going to promote tourism. It's not just going to benefit Mississippians. It's the people who see what we have here in this state and want to come here and see it. You talk to people and, hey, where are you going to go vacation? And first thing we think about is going somewhere else. We've got so much resources here in the state of Mississippi. Why not make it to where more and more people want to do more right here in our own backyard?
Yeah, I actually should start a campaign to get the legislature to support Mississippi tourism as it relates to outdoors, proclaiming us the capital of the outdoors in America. Because as you point out, it's not just hunting and fishing. It could be bird watching or photography or canoeing or, whatever, boating. It could be building reefs in coastal Mississippi. It could be who knows what. It could be involved in developing programs to help more kids get involved in the outdoors. And you said, 30% of Mississippians, somewhere in that number, involved in hunting and fishing. That's still a really big number. That's hundreds of thousands of people who are engaged in the outdoors in Mississippi, contributing to what some have estimated an economic impact of somewhere around $8 billion. You think about the multiplier effect of all of this, and it is absolutely tremendous. And we want to do everything in our power to grow that number. So it's big. When you talk about tourism and you talk about outdoor recreation, it is economic development in the surest sense of the word. And what we're wanting to do is not just catch up with our neighboring southeastern states that have done well in this arena. We want to become a leader in this arena because we're the capital of the outdoors. And I think that's where we're headed, isn't it, buddy?
Yeah, I can't wait to 1 year from now to be able to visit with you and see where we've gone and what we've been able to accomplish and what we can look forward to. It's a great opportunity. it was a situation that, you know, I had to get out of my comfort seat to be interested in taking this position. But here we are, and I think we're doing great. We're going to look forward to what we can do.
Thanks for doing it, Ricky Flynt. You're the right man for the job. I look forward to supporting you in your efforts. This has been a terrific conversation about the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. Thank you, Ricky, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Stay safe in the outdoors, and we'll see you next Monday.
Carry on, Mississippi.